All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're looking at John Coley's Skate or Die Jacob Jones. Now, if you're used to kids finding glowing amulets or discovering some secret magical bloodline, well, you're in for a totally different kind of ride. We're going to break down exactly how this story completely shatters what you'd expect from a middle-grade fantasy adventure, trading all that traditional magic for the real world. And honestly, it's a lot more thrilling for it.
So, what do a math prodigy, a pygmy chimp, and banana pudding have to do with the zombie apocalypse? I know, it's a bizarre combo, right? But it perfectly hits on our core focus for today. How does this story flip the traditional middle-grade fantasy genre completely on its head? Usually, you'd get a wise wizard, maybe a dragon, some ancient elixir. But here, we're trading the whole shebang for math, primates, and dessert.
Moving on to subverting the chosen one, forget prophecies, bring a skateboard. Let's look at how this story completely reimagines the concept of the hero. It's a really stark contrast. We are all so used to that fantasy standard, the magical chosen one bound by destiny. Instead, we get Jacob Jones. He's a 13-year-old kid cruising in a Subaru Crosstrek with his cousin and his adopted mom, Dana. And side note, Dana is actually managing her type 1 diabetes with an insulin pump, which grounds the story in real-world stakes right from the jump. Jacob doesn't wield a glowing magic sword. He literally just wants to finish his calculus homework and go skateboarding. There's no ancient prophecy driving him. He's just heading to a local skateboarding exhibition to support military troops. And you guys, it gets even better when we look at his companion. Instead of your typical mystical animal guide, no talking dragons here, our sidekick is Stella. She is a completely non-magical, grape-loving pygmy chimpanzee. And they don't have some mystical soul bond. She literally just grabs onto him at a skate park to escape a crowd. And the way she got loose? A group of teenagers from an organization called Vegans for Animal Rights First accidentally freed her at a military base. It's brilliantly absurd, but entirely rooted in realistic, non-magical cause and effect.
So, a science instead of magic, physics over potions. Because when the action actually kicks off, math and science completely replace the spells. You see, Jacob's true superpower isn't casting some sort of magical force field when he's surrounded. Instead, his incredibly fast mathematical mind kicks into high gear. He is computing physics on the fly. We're talking evaluating sines, cosines, computing hypotenuses and centripetal forces, and he uses these mental calculations to pull off absolutely incredible skateboard tricks. 360s, 720s, ollies, grinding over handrails. He literally skates over and around his enemies. It's like poetry in motion, but driven 100% by geometry and physics. And the crisis they're facing? Not born of dark magic either. It's literally toxic waste. Specifically, a mislabeled barrel of chemicals from the Middle East just sitting in a warehouse at Fort Huachuca. Over time, the preservatives inside break down uniformly, causing a highly dangerous chemical reaction. There is no evil sorcerer chanting in a dark tower here. It is literally just a bureaucratic oversight and a chemical leak waiting to happen. Which brings us to a very grounded threat: the mundane monsters. Let's look at the villains, where the author takes the classic zombie trope and gives it a wildly scientific de-escalation. I absolutely love this definition. Forget reanimated corpses craving human brains. As the basis physician, Dr. Gilbert explains, these aren't undead monsters at all. They're just regular Arizonans suffering from a severe nerve gas-induced potassium deficiency. Their skin gets pale and swollen, they lose the ability to speak, and they just stumble around muttering, ba ba ba, because they are desperately, instinctively seeking out bananas to cure their chemical imbalance. How great is that? And if you look at the timeline, the way this disaster spreads is just a hilariously mundane chain reaction. It kicks off with a simple train cargo issue leaking those chemical preservatives. Then, at the warehouse, the vegan teens accidentally knock over the barrel while trying to free Stella. Stella runs right through the puddle of toxic waste, sneaks onto the back of a pickup truck, and heads off to the local farmer's market looking for a snack. The gas on her fur infects the crowd, and bam, the outbreak rapidly moves right to the local skate park where Jacob happens to be practicing. A perfect sequence of totally non-magical events. All right, the potassium pudding resolution, fighting chemistry with groceries. Because when it's finally time to save the day, there is no ancient relic required. 144. That is the magic number. Jacob realizes bananas are the cure after Stella literally chucks one at his head when he starts succumbing to the gas. So he calls up Ricky Max, the local hotel manager, and asks for all the bananas he has. Ricky provides a gross, which is exactly 144 bananas. Jacob and Stella are literally skating through the zombie horde, hurling fruit at people to cure them.
But math tells us that 144 bananas just isn't going to cut it for hundreds of infected citizens.
And the step-by-step logic here is just fascinating. The military realizes the chemical need is potassium, but they quickly figure out they've exhausted the town's natural supply of actual whole bananas. So what is the logical, real-world escalation? The military hilariously blasts the entire town of Sierra Vista with banana pudding using fire hoses. I mean, it's gross, it's incredibly messy, but scientifically, within the rules of this universe, it works perfectly to neutralize the nerve gas.
Which leads us to, inspired by real life, truth is stranger than fantasy. Checking out the author's notes at the end of the book reveals the ultimate subversion of the genre. Because the most bizarre, outlandish elements of this sci-fi romp are actually heavily grounded in reality. The setting isn't some made-up kingdom, it's the real-life town of Sierra Vista and Fort Huachuca in Arizona. The characters, Chad, Mike, Bert, Ricky Max, even Dr. Gilbert, are directly based on the author's real-life high school friends. And get this, the history lesson Dana gives Jacob early on is completely true. The very first McDonald's drive-thru really was built in Sierra Vista just so soldiers from the fort could get food without breaking the rule against entering restaurants in uniform. The whole story is literally anchored in factual American history.
And I absolutely love this final quote from the author's notes. He writes, "I must confess, I may be from the South, but I hate banana pudding. Give it to the zombies for all I care." It is just so funny to me that the ultimate world-saving elixir in his book is a dessert he personally despises. It just adds another layer of wonderful mundanity to the whole shebang. So if there's one thing you should take away from this explainer, it's that sometimes replacing tired fantasy tropes with math, science, and a healthy dose of reality is far more entertaining than magic. It grounds the stakes and really makes the hero's ingenuity shine. Which leaves me with a question for you. In a grounded, scientifically driven apocalypse like this one, what real-world skills would you use to survive the chaos? Think about it, and we'll see you in the next explainer.